What is going on, guys? This is a video that I've thought about doing for a while, and I have had a handful of people ask me, how I've structured my setups. They've introduced that a couple of months ago into the game, so I want to show you guys my kind of preset setups. I'm obviously not going to go like too crazy in depth with it, and then I'm also going to talk about some of the changes that I think could be made to optimize the actual preset system itself. So without further ado, let's go and get started. Welcome back, guys. We are going to, like I said, go through and I'm going to show you guys my presets, how I've structured things, and then also towards the end, I'm going to throw out an idea or two that I think could make the preset system better, because I've seen some people complain about it, and I totally get the complaints. They're completely valid, and I agree with them, but a lot of you, like I said, have requested to see my presets or whatever, so we're going to go ahead and knock all of it out in one single video. As always, if you want to continue to see videos like this right here on the channel and stay up to date on all of the latest across Warpath, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Now let's go ahead and jump in and start taking a look at my presets. All right, so as we get started, and I would like to point out what you just saw at the top real quick there, it showed power. It's because I'm retraining some troops. We are currently in our Aegean Sea Theater of Conquest event, so I've got units out in army groups, so that is why you see some of that going on. So I'm sorry if that's just a little bit of a distraction. But as you can see, we do have our 5 different presets. We've got plan 1 through 5 here, and the first thing that I said I was going to wait till the end to kind of throw out an idea or two, but I'm going to do one of them right now since I believe it's relevant to this specific part of the video, and that is having the ability to name our presets. I think that that would make life just a lot easier. I don't think that would be a too terribly hard thing to implement for them. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not very smart on that side of things, but I think having the ability to name our actual lineups would be fantastic. It would make it a lot easier to just be like, okay, this is the one I need right now. Let's just click on that instead of, sometimes being like, oh, well, which one is this set up on again? So that would be my kind of first thought or suggestion there. So starting with plan 1, this is kind of my main setup. This is the one I run the majority of the time. I have specialized in my tank tech and all of that, so my 2 primary units here are obviously going to be my 2 tank units. These are completely maxed 9.2, maxed out on armored wrenches. They've got the best officers, the best officer skills, yada, yada, yada. I've got the artillery. I do send this artillery out, depending on the situation, or I will personally use it in the field every once in a while, just because Saber is still a pretty good officer simply for his, awakened skill. It does do some pretty solid and significant damage. And then, of course, I've got Antonina on there just for her extra 5th grid, since, like I said, I do send that unit out into army groups in the open field, or sometimes I will even use it myself in the open field, but few and far between. Now, this 4th unit here is pretty much 100% of the time left in my base. Not that I do really well on base defense with this setup in the first place, but in the event that I'm, running an army group or whatever, and somebody starts to attack my base, I at least have something to at least get a few kills out of the situation on. Obviously I'm not going to farm a lot of kills, but it's at least something to do some kind of damage if I get attacked while I'm either not paying attention or while I have units out in army groups. And then this 5th unit here is, of course, the rocket launcher. And as you can see, based on the officers, that is specifically for sending 2 rocket launcher specific groups when we are going to attack bases, since it obviously does do a pretty significant amount of base damage. And the officers are 2 fortification damage specific officers. So this is really kind of, like I said, my main lineup here. And of course, I should have also said this on the front end, but this is going to change and evolve. So the officers, the units, and the skills that you see as I continue to unlock more officers, as they add more officers into the game, as I get new skills, as I develop different units, this is obviously subject to change. So take that, or at least keep that in consideration. Air Force, this is specifically for camp buffs. This is nothing more than that. I obviously don't fight with any of these. These never leave my base unless it's by complete accident, which, you know, doesn't happen often. It has, but doesn't happen often. So strictly camp buffs there. Oh, and then also the increased AA firepower, of course. And then obviously Navy is still fairly new to the game, so still working on developing that. But this is my main Navy unit right here that I do use in the event that there is any kind of sea battles taking place, which is my anti-submarine frigate. Moving on to setup number 2, this is what I consider like my base attacking setup. Now, I'm not a very big like base-to-base player. I'm not strong enough to have a lot of success doing it. I mean, sure, if I go up against somebody that is comparable in power to me, you know, it'll take me a little while, but I can ultimately get the job done. But that's just not my fighting style anyway. I don't, you know, I really don't have the patience to just sit there like some of these guys and do the arty charging thing for, you know, an hour and a half to end up killing the base, and then they just, you know, relocate right away, and I just spend an hour and a half wasting my time to get nothing for my time. So that's not my style whatsoever, but this is for if we are running a big, you know, essentially a big murder ball on enemy bases, I will switch to this setup, and I will, you know, in some cases just kind of lead my own units on the attack, or in some cases, depending on, you know, how much time I've got, you know, or what the situation at hand is, I will start an army group that is kind of a mixed combination of both super heavies and artillery units. So that's what this is mainly for. I've got this 9.2 fully juiced up super heavy. It does fantastic job tanking bases. Again, I've got my tank tech maxed out, so it does a pretty solid job. I've, of course, got my, you know, main kind of base demolishing artillery unit here with the appropriate officers to go along with it. This artillery obviously does come along for the ride. I've got, while she is not awakened, Lady Liberty is currently, I'm going to shoot from the top of my head here, I think she is 5215, something like that. So she is serviceable, especially with Antonina, because Lady Liberty not being awakened, I don't have her 5th awakened skill available to me just yet. And then, of course, I've got my rocket launcher here. Now, these are obviously not very optimal base attacking officers, but, you know, it's what I've got available to me. And then this ATG is nothing more than just kind of a base defensive holding unit, or in the event somebody attacks me with some bombers, you know, of course, I can pop that out, put it into AA mode, and get some pretty solid kills from there. But it does do pretty well garrisoned as well. Then the Air Force on here, same exact thing. It is nothing more than strictly for camp buffs. I've just leveled them up, though, to get the additional benefits of leveling up your units. And then same situation here. This is my Navy. Obviously, I need to update this as it is not, you know, accurate with all of the resources, etc. But very similar, just, you know, one main Navy unit here, and that's pretty much the gist of it. But with this setup, I don't ever really go into the sea, even, you know, if necessary. I would just switch back to my main lineup if I'm going to do that. My third setup here is specifically for base defense. Again, this is going to change as time goes on. I've already changed this, you know, kind of one significant time I've changed and reworked this since these presets have actually released. So it will change again with time, you know, obviously. But this is when I am in a situation where I pretty much know I'm going to be attacked, whether I'm jumping into a village that's burning that has to be healed, whether we are getting pushed and I know I'm going to get attacked. I will switch to this setup, and of course I will change my base skin to match the appropriate buffs I am looking for. You know, I'll buff up my base, and this setup actually does a pretty good job for me. Now, I don't have, you know, great base defensive capabilities. My walls are, you know, somewhat leveled up. You know, I haven't maxed out advanced city defense or anything like that, so I'm not a big base defensive guy. I'm not a big, you know, just build up a massive garrison army here and, you know, whatever. But this actually does, you know, pretty good. I've got obviously a couple of arty. The rocket launcher does well against infantry, so it doesn't matter if I'm getting attacked by a super heavy or infantry. I have the ability and the capability, you know, to kind of push through both of those. I don't want to say easy, but, you know, I can get through them all pretty well. And then, of course, I've got the ATG here, which that is more, you know, just as a, hedge against super heavy specifically, which this setup actually does really well against super heavies too. And then the super heavy itself I have in here is nothing more than just, I'm using the HP from the unit to actually get some advantage from my base here. And then I've got obviously 2 officers here that are going to be reducing the actual skill damage my base takes from enemy officers attacking my base, which in turn, as we all know, the skill damage from officers is what dishes out the most amount of damage. So that is why I have gone with this pairing here to minimize the amount of skill damage that is dealt to my base. Similar story here. Air Force is nothing more than camp buffs. Doesn't get sent out, doesn't get utilized, just camp buffs. And then same story here. Navy, not been updated correctly. Don't use this. This does me no good when I am with this lineup. This lineup is specifically for being on land and for being in a situation where I'm going to be attacked, or when I go offline, I'll switch to this setup. So that way, if I am attacked while I'm offline, inevitably my base is going to get killed. I'm going to lose my troops, but I can at least farm a pretty good amount of kills with this setup. And I would say, generally speaking, with this setup right here, even if I'm not online to try to really defend myself or to do anything of the sort, I will generally break at least even with this setup. Now, of course, if I get attacked by a massive mega whale, that's a different story. But generally speaking, I will break even with this setup. In some cases, I go positive. In some cases, I go negative. But I'll at least break even, with maybe a small amount trending into the positive side of things, which is the only reason that I even keep troops in my base when I go offline. I will almost always, when I go offline, switch to this setup prior to actually logging off. So worst case scenario, I get some kills out of the situation. My 4th setup here is nothing more than primarily Air Force. Now, yes, I do have a couple of light tanks trained. These do not have any like wrenches on them or anything of the sort. So they are still strong units, but they're not going to be, equipped enough to be competitive in actual open field combat. So I'll utilize these, if I, want to send them out to army groups for like repute, bunker missions, things like that. That's primarily what they're there for. Or, I'm being very genuine when I say this. I've never used this setup with the intention of actually like ratting around enemy reserve lines. Don't get me wrong, I'll go kill enemy reserves, no question about that. But I've never actually used this setup for that, but I guess theoretically I could. But this is where the primary benefit comes from this setup, which is going to be the Air Force. I have maxed out both. Well, this first one is completely maxed out with wrenches and the whole thing. This one, other than the 9-star, which I haven't really updated this setup. I need to actually, but this one is getting close to getting maxed on wrenches. Obviously, I just need the prototypes to continue to push this forward. But this is my Air Force, if you will, specific setup. If we're needing to protect artillery groups, if we're needing to really clear the sky of a lot of fighters, then I will switch to this to be able to help the Alliance out, in regard to Air Force. And then Navy here, same story, pretty much irrelevant with this specific setup. So that's all I've got on that. And then my 5th and final setup here is absolutely nothing. I literally don't have anything here. I don't have a reason to have anything here, so I have left it blank strictly for the aspect of if I'm going through and I'm like sifting through real quick trying to remember which lineup was on which one. I know I click on this, I don't see anything there. I know this is not a lineup I want to put on or I'm absolutely screwed. So that's why it's the last one, and that's why it is left completely blank. One of these days I'll probably fill it up, but right now I just don't have a need for it. So I left it blank to make it very easy to know, okay, this is one that I'm not going to have any need for. Now, with that being said, let's talk about the change that I would like to see made. So obviously, if you've played for any length of time, you know how this preset goes, for the most part. So you've got your 5, kind of categories here, right? You can click on them. You can pick up, whichever one, makes the most sense to you. You can apply it for the 20 gold, and it will start enable auto training if you want, which I would highly encourage you to do. I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that. But anyway, that is, to be fair, I guess I could maybe see like 1 or 2 scenarios where maybe that would make sense. But anyway, I digress. So you've got you click on whichever plan you want, and it'll bring up your whole actual lineup here, and you can select accordingly. Or if you just know off of memory, like, okay, hey, I need to go kill a base, boom. Or, hey, I'm getting offline, I'm going to go to base defense, boom, right? Easy enough. But there's kind of two big things here, right? So when you upgrade your units, it doesn't automatically update on the preset. You have to actually go in, click on this little save SD card icon there, go into the specific plan, replace the formation to update it with the, kind of newest or most recent lineup or upgrades that you've got. So if you take a unit from, let's say, level 120 to level 130, it won't automatically update to 130 in here in your preset. You'll have to actually go and replace the formation with the new unit for it to update to 130. So I would like for them to have a system where that would automatically update. I don't know if that's an easy thing. I don't know if that's a hard thing. But that would make life definitely easy, so you don't have to worry about, oh shit, I just leveled up a unit, I got to go in and manually save it again, so that way it's still upgraded when I need to use this setup again. That would be number one. And number two, I don't know the exact solution to this problem, but I have done it on a handful of occasions, and it is the biggest pain in the ass to deal with, and I have no doubt you guys have all dealt with the same thing. I will have a setup or a preset, right? I will click on it, and then I will make some adjustments, and then I'll think, okay, well, I need to save this. I click on the wrong one, or I come down here and click on this, little SD card or save icon, and I'll think I'm actually just applying a formation, meaning changing a formation. So let's say I've got my field fighting one here. I click on that thinking I'm going to go to a base attacking setup, right? And then I just replaced the formation, which changed it entirely, and I didn't want to do that, and I mistakenly thought that I was just applying a different format, not replacing the formation. Pain in the ass. I don't know what it looks like in a world where they can fix that, but there absolutely needs to be some way to resolve that, because it is a pain in the ass to have a whole ass setup taken care of going into a conquest event just to screw it up over whatever, and then you have to spend your whole time changing the units, changing the officers, and updating everything. It just needs to be polished up a little bit. The presets are an incredible addition. I think everybody loves them. I love them. I'm not complaining about them. But if they can make a little bit of, an adjustment there, some quality of life updates to the system, I think it would be very spectacular. With that being said, I would love to hear any feedback you guys have on my setup, and also let me know, are my setups comparable to yours, or do you have a totally different approach and idea on your preset lineups? As always, if you have stuck around and made it this far into the video, if you've got access to Discord and are not already in our community Discord server, the link to that is going to be in the description of the video below. Click on that link. It will take you right into the community Discord server. Whether you are a new player, veteran player, it doesn't matter. Absolutely everybody is welcome. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch the video today, and we'll see you on the next one.